So, for those of you who are not familiar with RAIN, it is it's an acronym created by longtime mindfulness teacher Michelle McDonald many decades ago to capture the essence of mindfulness, to give us a simple way of being able to practice what mindfulness is all about. So the acronym stands for recognizing, allowing, investigating, and nurturing. It's for dealing in particular with the practice, the tool, the technique is for dealing with difficult emotions that keep arising, keep recurring. We think we've dealt with something, and then suddenly it keeps coming back, and we wonder what's going on, why it keeps hanging around. And RAIN is a way of coming into presence with it and to allowing it to be there without trying to fix it or control it or even overanalyze it. So as an example, as I mentioned the other day, one of my unpleasant experiences that keeps cropping up and in my life and has especially been happening during this period of pandemic is judgmentalism about how things are happening, about how various people are dealing with things. And it's not a question of what's right or wrong or appropriate or inappropriate. It's my reactivity, my frustration that people are not doing the things that I want them to do, doing them the way I think they should be doing them. And so I get caught in this judgmentalism, in this frustration about it, this irritation. And it's unpleasant. It causes tension in my chest, and it goes round and round. This is the kind of recurring experience, distressing experience, that is a great candidate for RAIN. So I'll invite us each at the moment to reflect a little bit on what are some specific emotions, experiences that keep coming up for you that are unpleasant and difficult to deal with. So just take a moment and be with those and see what you're learning. So just holding on to that, keeping that in the background as we talk a little bit more about what RAIN is. RAIN's about bearing witness and observing. It's about our innate capacity for awareness. So instead of jumping in and analyzing something and trying to get it under control, we're simply bearing witness. We're observing the essence of mindfulness, invoking this capacity we have to be aware of our experiences, not only to be aware of them, but to be aware of what we're aware of and how powerful that can be. So RAIN helps us stay in the present moment. It helps us not be controlled by our denial or resistance of what's happening, or our wishing that things could be other than they are. Those are pretty normal human tendencies. We've all experienced them. We're all vulnerable to them. And they're normal human tendencies because they arise out of the part of our nervous system that's trying to protect us, our survival energies, are ways that we want to protect ourselves. And instead, with rain, we end up creating enough space so that we gain some insight into what's actually happening, some understanding, and we're able to bring self-care to it. So these four components are easily described with a question for each one. For recognizing, we ask ourselves, what is happening right now? What's happening inside me right now? For allowing, we ask ourselves, how can I be with what's happening inside me right now? Just be with it. For investigating, we're saying, how can I be curious and interested in what's happening? Invoking just basic human curiosity and interest. And nurturing, the question is, what do I need right now? So Monday we spent a lot of time working with recognizing and allowing. Recognizing is merely about observing. And we observe in a way in which we notice what's happening. We attach a label to it, such as frustration, judgmentalism, anger. And then we realize that we don't have to say, I am frustrated, I am angry. We can simply say, frustration is present. Anger is present. And we further realize that in the observing, in the awareness, there's no anger. Anger may be present in our bodies, or we may be having a thought about it, but there's no anger in our awareness. I mentioned the other day the analogy to a mirror. We look in a mirror and we can see a happy face. We look in a mirror on another day and we can see a sad face. But the mirror itself is neither sad nor happy. It's just reflecting back what's there. That's what our awareness can do. And once we step into that awareness, then we're giving ourselves some space around whatever powerful emotion is present. And everything changes. The allowing is about being realistic about what's happening right now. If anger or frustration is present, then we acknowledge that. We allow it to be present just as it is. We don't deny it. We don't resist it. We don't wish things other than they are. We just be with it. We allow it to be present. And allowing it to be present is not condoning it. It's not saying, I want this to be this way for the rest of my life. It's just being realistic. Now, Rob has mentioned that there's snow on the ground in Michigan in April. That's probably not his first choice. But it'd be kind of silly for him to sit there and say, as he observes the snow, no, there's actually no snow out there. It's being realistic. It's being honest with ourselves about what's here. That's what the allowing is about. So that brings us to these final two components of RAIN, investigating and nurturing. And I want to talk about them in a little bit more depth today, and then we'll do a practice around them. Investigating is about having curiosity with kindness. We're curious about what's present. There's no analyzing, fixing, or controlling. Those are great approaches when we've got some physical problem that needs to be dealt with. I mentioned the other day a flat tire, or we need to recrunch the numbers in our budget, analyze them. Those are useful skills then. But they're not so useful in dealing with these difficult emotions. And we say, what is happening? We don't say, why is this happening to me now? Which, of course, is nothing but an invitation to get lost in old stories, old things we say to ourselves or we recall being said to us that do nothing more than trigger the emotion again and staying back in the old situation. This is about generating some learning and understanding. And it turns out that our bodies are where we can place our curiosity. By paying attention to the physical sensations that are present, we're letting go of the backstory, and we're learning how this shows up in ourselves. Kay and I have a friend who's specialized in doing body work, energy work for years, and one of her favorite lines is, "The body never lies." When we're feeling tension in the gut, there's a message there. When we're feeling pressure in the chest, there's a message there. And we are well served to pay attention to it, to be with it, to allow it, to investigate it by paying close attention. We say to ourselves, what underlying wisdom is there to this fear or anxiety that's showing up as tension in this part of my body or another? What's the underlying message? What's the underlying belief that I'm holding that's putting me in this place? So that's investigating. And since this is mindfulness, whose two major components are wisdom and compassion, we're going to do this with a little compassion. We're going to be in a nurturing mode. We're going to offer ourselves some self-care. We're calling on our wise and compassionate self to be present, to engage with us. When we are judgmental about ourselves, when we engage in harsh self-criticism, these are acts of separation, of ways of disconnecting from ourselves, of taking an already difficult situation and making it worse, making it harder. So instead, we stay connected without judgment, without being harsh. So that's a basic description of investigating and nurturing. So let's shift now to an experience. And I'll walk us through the whole of 4 parts of rain. And we'll do this not exactly as a meditation, but we'll do it as a visualization or a practice. And we'll begin by recalling that difficult emotion that you thought about earlier and you've been holding lightly in the back of your minds. So settling in and finding a comfortable way to sit, and you'll probably find doing a visualization a little easier if you close your eyes. And recalling the experience of the difficult emotion, sometime when it occurred in the last couple weeks. And maybe it's something that has to do with this circumstance we're in now. This is a very difficult time. It is prompting all kinds of emotions that maybe haven't been present for some time. So recalling some difficult experience of the last couple of weeks and putting yourself back in the moment when it was really occurring, any moment in which it was occurring, and recalling the circumstances. Where were you? What was happening? Who was saying what to whom? What thought was arising? And now asking yourself, what is happening inside me right now? Noticing whatever thought or emotion is present. And naming it, labeling it. Anger, frustration, irritation, fear, and noticing what happens in the simple labeling. And now saying to yourself, how can I be with what is happening inside me right now? Pausing and accepting the reality of this difficult moment. Allowing it to be fully present. Noticing if there's any denial arising or resistance or wishing this would go away. And observing those experiences as well. Labeling them. You might also be noticing an inclination to be cycling back and forth in this moment between recognizing and allowing. And that's okay. Our language requires that we describe this linearly. Our lives are not lived that way. Our experiences are not like that. Continuing to stay present with whatever's happening. And particularly taking your attention to whatever sensations are present. Tuning into your body. Allowing your body to help you out here. Concentrating your attention on the sensation itself. Is it becoming more intense? Less intense? Is it moving around? Continuing to observe it. Noticing if you're telling yourself the story again. And if so, gently taking your attention back to the sensation. Concentrating your attention there. And as you've become fully present to the sensation, bringing a little curiosity into play. What is most difficult about this experience? What belief is present here? What underlying emotion is present? What wisdom, what learning might be present here for me? And sitting patiently with intuitive awareness, realizing that there may not be an instant response to these inquiries. Realizing that being human, we're complicated. It's messy. And if there's been a bit of an insight, rest with that and continue to inquire. And continue to rest patiently in intuitive awareness. And in these moments, inquire of yourself, what do I need right now in this difficult moment? What kindness and self-care can I offer myself? Perhaps you might find it useful to rest your hand on your heart. Or to rest your hands on your upper arms in a way that feels like you're giving yourself a soft hug. Acknowledging to yourself that this is hard. Being present with difficult emotions is not easy. Acknowledging that perhaps you're worried that this is not working, that you're not doing it right. As long as you're present, you're doing okay. There's no right or wrong here. A willingness to be present, honoring that in yourself. Perhaps there continues to be some cycling back to recognizing or allowing or investigating in whatever order. Simply resting with what's coming up. And now taking a couple of deep breaths, and on the out breath, letting go of whatever tension or energy has built up in this practice. You've been working hard, relaxing into just this moment of your breathing. Noticing how your breathing has continued on, how regardless of what's been happening emotionally for you, your breathing has known what to do and has continued to support you. And simply staying with your breathing for a few more moments in a soft, kind way. Perhaps having a moment of gratitude for how this breathing knows what to do. And if something came up in this experience that you think might be useful to write down, make a note or two about it, take a moment and do that. If there was any insight, understanding. Often in these moments we realize that we've been holding some belief about how things happened or how we should be or ought to be. And in this experience, we realize it's just a belief. Feel free to write that down. This is hard work. Rain is not a typical mindfulness meditation, such as a concentration practice or an awareness practice or a connecting with kindness practice. It's more of a tool for learning the art of being with the difficult and learning how to bring curiosity to your experience with kindness. And it may be that in this moment, you've not only had a difficult experience, but you're left feeling a bit frustrated because perhaps there wasn't any great insight or understanding. And that's okay. For most of us, when we step into working with a difficult emotion in rain, an emotion that's been recurring over multiple times, It's something that has a long history with us. Even if the instigating experience was recent, there's usually something pretty long-term in place. Something that may be arising out of experiences that we had when we were really young. So don't be surprised if we didn't get this fixed in this moment. Because it's not about the fixing. Don't be surprised if you might be inclined to go through this experience again in the next few days, working with the same subject, the same emotion. Sometimes it takes multiple rain experiences to gain the insight, to create enough space so that the emotion is not so controlling.